There's a feeling when you're in the right place with the right camera, where you just want to find the perfect shot. I hadn't felt that in a long time, until this. I took the Hasselblad X2D Mark II 100C to Mallorca, Vietnam, and China. I had never held one of these before, and within the first hour, I understood why people talk about this brand the way they do. The first thing you notice when you hold this camera isn't a feature, it's a feeling. Everything about the physical build communicates that someone cared about this object. The graphite gray matte finish, the grip texture, the weight distribution with the lens mounted, the way every button has intention behind it. There's a new 5D joystick on this body. Focus point selection, menu navigation, all of it without touching the screen. It changes how effortless you can shoot. The display is a 3.6-inch OLED, peak brightness of 1400 nits. In direct Mallorca sun, you can see it. That matters more than it sounds when you're standing in midday light trying to judge an exposure. It also tilts up 90 degrees, down to about 43, and pulls slightly outward to stay clear of the viewfinder. Small engineering detail, but a thoughtful one. I want to talk about the color, because this was the thing I was least prepared for. Hasselblad has their own color science. They called it HNCS, Hasselblad Natural Color Solution, and on paper that sounds like a marketing term, something you read in a spec sheet and move past. In practice, the colors just look right. Not processed, they just look right. The skin tones, the transition between highlight and shadows, the way a stone wall catches afternoon light in Mallorca, or the way colorful lights bleed color into the night of Vietnam and China. It doesn't look processed, it looks like the place. The X2D Mark II 100C takes this even further with something called HNCS HDR. And I want to be clear about what this actually is, because it's not the HDR you've seen before. Traditional HDR stacks multiple exposures. The result is usually flat, tonally compressed, and if you've ever seen it done badly, it looks like a painting with a few wrong colors. But this is different. One single exposure, the camera processes true high dynamic range in body, 15.3 stops of dynamic range, and what that means visually. An image where you have really bright parts but also shadows can hold the details in both areas simultaneously without it looking fake. And the beautiful thing is you can immediately see it on that 1400 nit display. The only camera screen I've used where you can genuinely evaluate an HDR image in the field. Edit it in the Focus Mobile 2 app on your iPhone or iPad, export it as a standard JPEG, and it renders correctly on compatible screens on Instagram on a MacBook Pro. From the first frame to the final share, it just works. One thing I have to mention here is HDR only works with JPEG and HEYF. And it needs the right scenes. High contrast, golden hour, city lights at night, deep shadow against bright sky. In flat, even light, you won't see the difference. You have to shoot for it, which honestly I think is the right relationship to have with a feature like this. It rewards intention. Medium format cameras have never really been known for moving with you. They've been tripod cameras, studio cameras, cameras you set up deliberately and compose for. That reputation existed for a reason. The X2D Mark II 100C has 5-axis in-body image stabilization, rated at 10 stops. To put that in context, the camera it replaces had 7 stops. 10 stop means you're shooting at shutter speeds that should be physically impossible to handhold. And it delivers. I was in a small village in Mallorca, old stone streets, people everywhere. I set a 3-second exposure, handheld. The moving people blur into soft streaks through the scene, which sounds like a mistake, but it's not. The buildings stay super sharp. The architecture holds completely and the image has life in it without the distraction of faces and bodies pulling your eye away from the place and the buildings itself. It's an artistic effect, but it's also an intentional one that would have required a tripod before, but not anymore thanks to the in-body image stabilization. The sweet spot for the stabilization is at longer focal length. The further you zoom, the more micro movement matters in the frame, and the more dramatically the IBIS compensates. At 100mm handheld, at 2 or 3 seconds, you're getting images that shouldn't be possible without a tripod. I honestly forgot to bring my tripod to Mallorca, and it didn't matter. What this actually changes is creative freedom, because when you stop moving equipment, you start thinking about the image. For this entire shoot, Mallorca, Vietnam, China, I used one lens, the XCD 35-100E. A 3x zoom covering the equivalent of 28 to 76mm in full frame terms. Hasselblad calls it the second lens in their holy trinity. And the way it performs, that term doesn't feel like an overstatement. At 35mm you have room for the world. Landscape, environment, context with an aperture of 2.8. Push it to 100mm and everything changes. Compression, isolation, subjects pulled out of their surroundings and placed against them differently. So it's like 2 cameras in one. The maximum aperture is f2.8 at the wide end. For medium format zoom, that's the widest available in this format. When shooting in narrow streets, shady conditions, or at night, that f2.8 is doing real work. And the SMT autofocus motor is fast, quiet, and paired with the AFC on the X2D Mark II 100C, it tracks without hunting, without the mechanical wearing you sometimes get with older focus systems. The lens weighs 894 grams. Add the camera body and you're carrying a real setup. Day one you feel it, by the end of the week you stop noticing. What I'll say is this: using one lens across 3 countries, every scenario, every lighting condition forced me to shoot differently. I had to make it work. Medium format and moving subjects have historically been a difficult conversation. The original X2D shot AFS, single autofocus. You lock focus, you shoot, you lock again. Yeah, for landscapes, for portraits, for anything patient and deliberate, perfect. For anything that moves, frustrating. The X2D Mark II 100C changes this. Continuous autofocus arrives on a Hasselblad camera for the first time. 425 face detection points across the frame. Subject detection that recognizes people, animals, and vehicles. So tracking a person who's walking, that works. It stays locked, it doesn't hunt the way I expected it from a system that's never done this before. So in the markets of Vietnam, chaotic light, movement everywhere, narrow lanes, the subject detection found faces and held them in a way that frankly I didn't expect. I want to be precise here because it matters. This is not the fastest autofocus system I've ever used. If you shoot sports, if you need 8 frames per second with perfect tracking, this maybe is not your camera. The continuous shooting speed is 3 frames per second. That's a reality. And for the way this camera is meant to be used, deliberate, intentional, with real moments and real subjects, the autofocus is capable in a way the system has never been before. Medium format used to require patience. Now it just requires intent. And that's a true difference. One thing to notice, this camera is heavy. A full day in Vietnam, walking markets, climbing for angles, shooting consistently, you feel the weight of the setup by the afternoon. That's not a deal breaker, but it's not a mirrorless travel camera either. Know what you're signing up for. And talking about the price, the body alone is a serious investment. The 35-100mm E lens adds significantly to that. So this is not a camera you buy casually. It demands that you be honest with yourself about what you need and whether this is it. For the kind of photography this system is built for, landscapes, travel, portrait, street, anything that rewards a deliberate eye and beautiful light, I think the answer is yes. I think this is the perfect camera. But that's also a decision that you have to make for yourself. I came to this camera as a filmmaker, someone who works with visuals every day, someone who thought they had a pretty clear idea of what a great image looks like. And I spent a week in Mallorca, and then a week in Vietnam, and then like 10 days in China, and being reminded of something, I'd let go quiet. The drive to find the shot, the need to be in the right place at the right light, the feeling of looking through a viewfinder and knowing before you press anything that this is going to be something. That feeling doesn't come just from the megapixels. It doesn't just come from the autofocus points or dynamic range numbers or stabilization stops. It comes from a camera that makes you want to go outside. That makes you drive somewhere at 5 in the morning just because you want to see what the light is doing. This camera did that. And some tools really change the way you see the world. Links to the X2D Mark II 100C and the XCD 35-100E lens are in the description down below. And I'll also write the name in case that was too complicated. If this video did something for you, if it made you want to go out and find a shop, subscribe. That's exactly the kind of content I want to keep making here. I see you in the next one. Happy creating.